And we begin with more detail on that much anticipated summit between the leaders of the US and China. The meeting between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden has been happening virtually. It's just come to an end and is the latest attempt at easing tensions in what is arguably the most important bilateral relationship. President Xi told President Biden in the video conference the two countries face multiple challenges together and must increase communication and cooperation. Well, President Biden said they both have a responsibility as leaders to ensure that relations between China and the United States do not veer into open conflict. The two sides, though, are currently engaged in a full-blown trade war. So how did we get here? Well, you may remember it well. We covered every twist and turn. If we were going to take you back to July 2028, when the then President Trump placed a 25% duty on around $34 billion worth of imports from China. It sparked an immediate retaliation from Beijing and a series of tit-for-tat measures. The trade war was underway. So tensions were intensified a year after that, in May 2019, when the Chinese telecom giant Huawei was added to a new US trade blacklist. Big Chinese semiconductor companies soon followed onto that list. Then in January of 2020, under the Biden administration, the two countries signed the first phase of a new trade deal that delayed new tariffs, cooling things down slightly. And in May of this year, the first trade talks of the Biden era were held between Chinese Vice Premier Liu He and US Trade Representative Catherine Tai. Many tariffs still remain in place, though, but the exchange was described as candid and constructive. So what can we expect now? Well, let's talk to Christine McDaniel, who is Senior Research Fellow at Mercatus Center. A warm welcome to the programme. And Christine, I note that you have worked in the US Treasury Department, in the White House, in their Council of Economic Advisors. So you have some real insight into the views within the White House about China. What are your expectations following this virtual meeting?
Well, hi, thank you for having me. It's nice to see you. Well, we're still waiting for details that have really yet to even trickle out of this virtual conference. But for sure, as you have just described, a host of tariffs has definitely frustrated this economic relationship. So it was, I think it was a real sigh of relief when China and the United States a few days ago in Glasgow came out with that joint statement on climate, and then for them to have this virtual conference today, trying to, I think, maybe reset the tone for more, at least more engagement at the highest level, and then perhaps even, at the cabinet level and maybe even deputy level. Once you get to that deputy level, then you can really get to some of those behind the border issues that can it can really help with damage control, so things don't boil up to having to resort to some blunt instrument.
I mean, when the trade war kicked off back in 2018 under the then President Trump, it was a huge story, dominating headlines, concerns about the impact it would have on the global economy, et cetera, et cetera. And actually, the Biden administration have kept largely a lot of that, the tariffs in place. They haven't actually watered down things that much, have they, or have they?
Well, I think the rhetoric has been toned down, but the policies have largely remained the same. You might remember during the Trump administration, the original plan, at least at the cabinet level, was to do China first and then do steel tariffs later, maybe. And then by doing China first, the idea was to get other countries involved and then address a lot of China issues, which are more than just US-China issues, right?
But just briefly, Christine, sorry to interrupt you, but what's your expectation when it comes to trade specifically with regards to these regular virtual meetings that these two leaders have now committed to?
Well, yeah, I don't really expect a lot to happen on the tariffs unless China decides to, or agrees to give something in return, which is really unfortunate because, you know, the trade negotiators like to think that tariffs give them some bargaining power, but economists just see the data and we see the tariffs for what they really are, which is really just increasing costs and prices for U.S. manufacturers, importers, consumers. And, you know, gee, right now we could really use some easing on inflationary pressures in the U.S. economy, as many other economies could as well. And that could easily be done if President Biden were to eliminate the tariffs. So I think the longer inflation stays on, the more pressure they'll be under to eliminate the tariffs.
Okay, well, we shall keep a close eye. Christine McDaniel, thank you for your time. Good to talk to you.